As live. The buzzword, integration, comes into play so often. I want to speak to it because there's things that many of us who are using the word so often aren't considering, but I want to posit this for your consideration. I'm going to tell you a story about a meditation that I had in a release that was in conjunction to some physical, therapy that I received from my brother yesterday. Now, integration, when you guys think of this word, what are we thinking of? Setrak, and let's also pay attention because I've been helping people to integrate their experiences for years, not just recently. What's up, my brother? I miss you. I love you. Even when I worked over at Schofield, I was holding space for other soldiers coming back from Afghanistan, holding space also for my journey. And since I was a kid, even working in a youth group. So the integration is what? It's an experience, the contemplation of an experience, and then also the experience running its course to allow for the actual healing, the recontextualizing, and in the process, there's a knowing inside that you've passed, that you've finished. There are markers that come up to let you know, okay, I've made sense of this. I can let this go. There's a physical release that happens in the body as well. So what we have currently, because there's been a lot of complaints, say in the medicine industry, not even industry, but you can think of it like that. In the medicine space, you have plant medicine facilitators, other different modality facilitators, and then they open up traumas, they open up an experience for someone that's meant to shift, that's meant to take your awareness and help it to attain a new, broadened ability to perceive, and then things close back down, so to say. And in the aftermath, you've shifted internally, and so there's a corresponding shift in even the phase that you live in, the dimension that you actually exist in. Okay? Now, in that process, there are lessons to be learned. And so in a yoga class, you move things around and then you come into that pause. And I know the Shavasana are short, but they allow at least for enough time for a person to go into a rest state, reset, and be able to function with the new things adjusted. And this is what I'd like you all to think about when we speak to integration. Now, currently, with integration, with integrating, we have the belief that a lot of these things happen a lot faster than they're meant to. So I'm going to share a little bit about what happened with me even this morning. Now, I was taking some time to meditate. Yesterday, I had a session with my brother, Juan Jimenez, and then I had him on the Obsidian Soul Lounge, and we were speaking to the stomach work that he does, but also the other kind of acupressure that he utilizes. And I've also, done massage. And so he's got a beautiful, complete process with his work. And I know, because as he was working around my heart, right, there's a term called de-armoring. So my brother did some work around my heart space. And of course, you know me, I've been in many relationships, for those of you who know me. And some of you who will join, I also know that you guys have been navigating through so many relationships, especially the men. Very seldom do we have physical massage that is actually attending to the armoring that we can present around our hearts. So my brother did some work on the chest space, which is just working with the fascia, the muscle, and actually feeling it. I can feel this when I do my energy work and my massage work on an individual too. And so he, did some light work. And I had a release of, more mobility in the arm. And then as I went into my meditation this morning, I kind of disappeared. I went into this phase where I had the vision of myself and these two guys that I worked with. Okay, this is 20 years ago, two men. And I know the esteem that I held those two men in. One of them was the one who was letting me know, hey, you don't really know much about this industry. Let me teach you the basics. And I looked up to him like a big brother, almost a father figure, and an amazing man. And the other man was a bit older than both of us. And he was, when I got my first partner pregnant, my first wife, I should say, but she wasn't my wife at the time, he was schooling me with the realities, the disillusionment of what it can be like when you're in an interracial relationship in a place like St. Louis. So he just hit me with the live. But there were also things that these men that I looked up to, also I lost aspects of my innocence Because the one guy who I looked up to, who was a boss, one day, as I begin to witness some of the aspects of racism coming out of his mouth, he said something to me while I was doing a survey, and he was like, something, but if you do that, I can't have my boot on your neck. And it caught me so off guard, right? And so every time something like this happens, especially to some of us who are in these frames, and it can go the other way, and you think you're safe with the person, you think this is a man I look up to, and then they say one of those things that actually lets you know the truth of where you stand. I swallowed it, because of course I'm a young man with a job, now a beginning family, and I'm working hard, and even wanting him to be proud of me, and realizing, whoa, the dynamic isn't what I thought. And so I held that, but that was like a heartbreak, you understand? And then for the other man, who'll say BK, for him to speak now, he would say he disillusioned me about certain things and kind of forecasted what would happen with the marriage and me being in that interracial, quote unquote, interracial dynamic. And he was right actually about a lot of the stuff, but there were times when he would speak to and belittle the dreams that I had and the understanding that I had for how I would develop in that industry. And so I took that as a hurt as well. And in this dream, oddly enough, I'm working with these two men once again, and we're cleaning up a space. At the end of this is radiation cleaning. And at the end of this part of the dream or the vision, the two men gather up bags. They do what we call the demobilization. So they're covering things, and then we were working in a radioactive area. So what they did is they downposted, all right? They downposted and they leave me with a pack of smears and a dose meter. The smears are used to take a physical, you could say, specimen of contamination of just what's on the surface of a thing, and then we're able to measure that and identify the concentration of radionuclides of contamination or the lack thereof. And then when they're at certain spaces, we can release a place. Same with the dose meter. Now we're, basically identifying radiation levels that would dose a person, that would impart radioactive damage or just catalyst right into a person's tissue. And so those two are usually the last two things we do when a space is downposted. So in the dream, they downposted the space. They both hop on this vehicle. It's kind of like a trolley. They've packed everything up and they've finished, and then they took off. And as they were going away, I was like, damn, not even a handshake, not a goodbye. And I started crying. It was a crying release in the dream. But now I'm giving you guys the interpretation now. What that was me finally integrating hurts from 20 years ago and saying, okay, I've finished my lesson. I'm actually in a space that I was beginning 20 years ago with life, with freedom, with being able to now grow and mature, and also in a space to forgive things that happened so long ago. But now I'm in a space to actually integrate it. So where I'm coming from is that you can't hyperspeed. There's ways to help facilitate proper processes for integration and then to observe. And then when it happens, there are things that allow you to just know, okay, I've finished this, I've passed this time. I've cleared this space and that dynamic to where I can start fresh now. I'm matured, and it's not that I've regained the naivety, I should say, but I felt the piece of myself come back in my recognizing that I love those men. And it was actually, very painful, but they're transitioning now. That lesson, that contract that we had is completed. I've learned the lesson in being able to stand up for myself, to know my value in any profession, in any working agreement, to now bring things to completion and to recognize what that looks like. It might seem like I'm reaching. Let it be so. Why I'm sharing this with you, okay, is to speak to some of the things that our men, our brothers go through, the hurts that could be so far back, and they have to do with us being disillusioned, having us losing our naivety, the feeling of being safe around certain men and recognizing, oh no, not only was I not safe, they had sinister intention, and we don't even know what their intention was. And so it's ambiguous, right? Why is it ambiguous? It's because you don't know why those men behave like that. All you know is you felt a certain safety around these men, and you no longer felt that, and you had to keep on going, so you never got your answers. Therefore, you couldn't really integrate the situation. All you could do was swallow it stuff it, and maybe have it be held. So I was really grateful, and I'm going to tag him on this, for getting the opportunity to have that worked on my body. Then for me to have the space and time as I had, it's been 20 years since I've had this kind of space to myself, to contemplate, to pause, to breathe, to feel. And I do a lot of work in the integration space. And I maintain that these things take as much time as they take, but there are processes to help you navigate that space with a little bit more grace and ease, so you understand, so you can identify what's actually happening. Then you take the lesson. And this is a specialty that I have because I've been doing it before I even know what to call it, and so there are some things that people are just natural at. This is a natural gift, and I'm really happy to get to help people in those spaces. And it looks like, the 8-week embodiment mastermind or any other initiatory gathering, or when we do retreat together, when I facilitate plant medicine, I know what to do beforehand, during, after, and then I've committed to pretty much everyone that I've served to be able to come back to me, even if they don't like me for some reason. Well, that's part of their journey. So I keep the window open, and often a door open, because years later, and I've already had this happen, they reach back because they passed through a thing and they got the understanding. So you can fight it, you can try to push it, but some things only happen in their time. And I want to share this with you. So those of you who are navigating a breakup, those of you men who are navigating the process of dealing with your suicidal ideations, if you're navigating depression, if you're navigating loss, right? If you've been divorced, I've been through all these things. If you're just in the beginning of your cancer prognosis, if you're in the middle of it, where you're dealing with radiation treatment, electron beam treatment, chemo, if you're in the tail end where you maybe just beat it and gone into remission, but you still need to cleanse your body of the toxins that you put in to help clear the cancer, right? And maybe you're finished, you're clean, but you still need to process the whole experience of having navigated cancer, because you still have all of those things that you go through, whether it was terminal or not. It's a catalyst for thought. So integration is such an important process in life, and the process has a process. And I venture to say that a lot of what we've been thinking and what's going on right now with people speaking to integration is still a short-term quick fix. And so if you want to dig into it and have someone rolling with you for the long term, talk to me. And then there's some beautiful people out here who are working in that space. But no, it's a buzzword right now. And the question is, will those folks be committed to you for the long haul? You have to be committed to your integration for the long haul. And those individuals can answer questions and give you techniques. They can give you principles that if you implement them, you'll be able to get to this. You'll know what to look for, to discern, and to really feel into your frame. And you just got to catch it a couple times. But they say when you know, just like being in love, right? When you know you're finished and you've cleared it, then you know. But then the deciphering of what you've experienced is another story. So I feel fortunate that I can decipher these things. I can wake up, journal a dream, look at the pieces and interpret what they mean. And some people may say it's woo-woo. So be it. But I'm happy. And it's never something I'd want to admit. I wouldn't want to admit that there are men out there that I looked up to who are different, who are white guys, that I had love for. And I felt, wow, I feel safe. These guys are teaching me the trade. And then they said things to me that were disparaging. And I took it and I swallowed it. And I made myself great at the profession, but I never let it go. The one guy talked about how I would make my funds. I pushed myself to make, 2-3 times his salary. And then the next time that I came back, I was working on the site and they had to answer to me. Young man. Felt good, but it felt kind of empty, but not that empty. The other guy, I left. I went about my life and I made sure not to become, similar to him in terms of how I am in leadership positions. And yet still, I don't know those guys, but what I did feel in the resolution was I felt the love that I had return. I felt the forgiveness, and also the understanding that cycle came to an end. And while the big truth was, it's 20 years later. So things do naturally come to an end on their own, but how do they get there? What determines the rate of dissipation of the process? It is the environment that you're in. Is the environment conducive for you to naturally come into a space of forgiveness, into a space of healing, into a space of presence, to let it go? I think a lot of people are not in those spaces, and they need to be created, and or you need to make a choice to pull yourself back. Pull yourself back. This is the choice I've made. This is the choice I make in my sovereignty. If it's not aligned at this point, I don't give a fuck what it is. Once I discover it, I know I have a choice to make, and I tend to make the choice that's not the easiest. Jennifer, pleasure to have you. I can't wait to connect with you here. What I'm speaking to before I wrap this is the real process of integration. I know it's coming up a lot, and it's this thing we call integration is a part of so many aspects of the human experience. It's the learning, it's the digesting, and then really having it be a felt thing. And so I spoke in this live about meditation that I had, but also a journey, and the revelation and the release of something that happened to me 20 years ago. And the more embarrassing part, but this is how I know it's a revelation, and with these two men that I worked with, that I looked up to, me coming right out of college, realizing, hey, I don't know so much. These guys are going to show me the trade. I'm a physicist by trade, working with radioactive material, and I was working in a former fuel cycling facility, okay? Cleaning up, identifying, removing nuclear waste, special nuclear material at that, all right? So I'm working in this space. I'm getting to learn the trade, but I'm dealing with the racism of St. Louis. I'm dealing with men that I look up to telling me about stepping on my throat, and I swallow it because it's so confusing to me why, it's the purity and the naivety that I had to still try to hold on to that while balancing a family and, eventually getting laid off at that job, and also, realizing, this still exists and I'm still contending with this. And these are men that I respect. So it can be really confusing. And so what that did was that it really hurt my heart, and I kept that. And I just released that because I had a massage. So I had a somatic work done on me. And the armor that I thought this individual was feeling, I thought this was for a recent relationship. Lo and behold, this was for a relationship with other men that I wasn't so tight with, but that I put a lot of value on. And so I got that energy back, okay? But it took me this long to integrate it. It took me to get into a similar environment that mimics the environment and the space that I was when the initial thing happened. It took me to admit, wow, I really felt hurt by what happened with these guys. In the vision, as I shared, it was them leaving, us finishing the time, me crying. These aren't men I would cry for on the day-to-day, but I know why I was crying in the dream. It's because we finished the contract, so to say, which is what happens. So if you were to tune back and I share what it looks like when you finish cleaning up an area of radioactive material and you downpost and you have your final survey, so life will speak to you in all those ways. And it's just really special because I've always had the long-term commitment to what it is to take a person through the integration process. And I know that it's longer than, for Iboga, I served someone 3 scoops of Iboga, it's going to be 2 years. I have context because I know what it's like to journey with it extensively, so that I can also provide it. And the same with Bufo ceremonies. The integration for a lot of the ceremonies, wasn't talked about when I first started serving here, but I was already aware of it because I was initiated, right? And so to come out here and to actually really observe the integration for when people take psychedelics, when they go through releases in the body, right? Trauma release, but actually the looking at something and being disillusioned, and then life in and of itself. Environment is important. Awareness of the fact that you are still integrating, being able to identify what it is when you've come to the completion of a cycle. And of course, I know this weekend is a special weekend of completion with the new moon coming. So there's many factors, mechanical, etheric, in the unseen, metaphysical. And so I think it's important for people who are going to be in the space of integration to have talks and to really identify some of those key factors. So that's what I'll be speaking to. And this is the reason why I'm very comfortable working with people who are dealing with suicide, and I'm going to now focus on that. Suicidal ideations, dealing with, being in depression, and it's the before, during, and after, meaning the preventative medicine, actually being able to contend with and hold the burden of the heaviness and darkness that they're navigating afterwards, and then bringing them to a space where they know they've completed the cycle so they can stand strong feel empowered and also have key indicators and know that when that voice comes back for the ideations, it's okay. It doesn't mean you failed. This is just an echo, you know, and I've dealt with that. And so I work with people who I haven't even spoken of. But now I'm saying, as I proceed with the men's groups, as I gather some of these men, you know, who I know have the components to help from a physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual aspect, and all the pieces are here. So I think I feel good to move forward. And then I'd like to have a chat with you, Jennifer, if you get a chance, because you also bring a component to that with the work that you do. And I'll be working with women as well. So thank you for tuning in. I'm going to take a breather, and if anyone has any questions before I sign off on the share, then let me know. 9:51, double hands, baby. I'll take it. You know, yeah. And I think I'm also looking forward to connecting more with the AFES family, as I'm an AFESter as well. And I haven't made my trip to Talent, so I'd like to be in the position to learn and to receive, and then also share and service that community, the Mind Valley community, because they made a big impact on me when I was in Bali, 2018. That was an amazing experience. Also, Tanya Lopez, we come from the same hometown, so seeing her coming from Palm Coast while I was in Japan, I was working on an assignment in Japan for Fukushima, and I remember watching something on Instagram, on Facebook, and I'm like, Mind Valley, look at Tanya traveling. What is she putting together? Man, I want that for myself. And then a couple years later, after a bunch of disillusionments and tragedy, in my opinion, happened, but all those things opened up the door for something that was in high alignment. And so I just have so much love for that community. Yeah, I do. And I would love to have a bit of a reunion here as well at some point. But at least we can have a reunion. So, okay. Well, thank you. Let me go ahead and shut this down. For those of you who, I'll make a snippet of this. I'm going to save it. I'm going to put it on YouTube. And then I'll see you soon, my dear. Feel free to reach out anytime. I'll be around town this week. And I'll definitely make time for you if you want to get together for coffee and a Taldos. You let me know. Okay? Thank you. Glad to have you back. Thank you for tuning into this live. And I'm open to your thoughts on what I've shared. So feel free to drop anything else that you feel in the comments. Family, I highly suggest you check out Jennifer Partridge's page, because she is thebomb.com. And, you know, she's a very, very powerful being delivering a message that y'all need to hear. So there's my hint. Okay, big love. See you soon. That's the shaka right there. Hang loose, but also take them easy. Aloha. Thank you.